U.S.-China technological competition is widespread and complex, but there is one technological sphere with a clear leader. Chinese companies are increasingly outperforming competitors in cost and quality when it comes to established clean technologies ranging from solar panels and lithium-ion batteries to electric vehicles. While the United States erects more barriers to keep out Chinese firms, it also needs to avoid technological isolation, contend with more competition on the international stage, and be prepared to compete in emerging and next-generation clean technologies. Many of Washington's current policies vis-a-vis Chinese clean technology companies assume that their rise is predominantly, if not solely, driven by subsidies. However, this overlooks the broader context that enabled the development of these companies and technologies, including China's massive effort to create markets for these goods over the past 2 decades and the role played by innovative companies integrated into global value chains. Focusing solely on overcapacity, for example, might lead observers to miss that it is the most successful and competitive manufacturers that are leading the export boom, such as EV maker BYD. While China's industrial policy does create significant market distortions, policymakers should spend more resources identifying gaps in the U.S. innovation ecosystem and focus more on U.S. competitive advantages. As it implements its own industrial policy strategy, the United States should learn from its main competitor. For example, few policymakers focus on the high levels of automation in Chinese factories as a source of advantage, even though the Chinese government has been explicitly supporting a shift toward more automation and the digitalization of manufacturing and encouraging the use of Chinese-made industrial robots in the process. Talent, financing, and regional clusters also matter, as does stable policy committed to creating demand for these emerging technologies. The demand piece will be crucial moving forward for the technologies where the U.S. government hopes to compete with incumbent Chinese firms, such as batteries and next-generation technologies like green hydrogen and carbon capture and storage. There are ways to bolster demand in the United States, for example, by building out more infrastructure for charging, promoting grid modernization and expansion, and engaging in permitting reform. Yet, a protected market often lacks incentives for innovation and efficiency, which is why Washington should encourage U.S. companies to engage in head-to-head competition with Chinese firms. Chinese cleantech companies are already rapidly expanding internationally, both in terms of exports and, increasingly, investment in third markets. Chinese firms are establishing factories beyond China's borders for refined minerals, components, and final goods, including solar panels and EVs. Far from a hostile takeover, these types of investments are often in direct response to demands by host countries. The United States is not unique in deploying tariffs against Chinese-made goods, but it looks more isolated in seeking to contain, rather than attract, Chinese investment. European, Southeast Asian, Latin American, and various other governments have explicitly invited Chinese companies to localize their production, something firms are eager to do in order to access these countries' markets or to export to third markets, including the United States. Another trend is also at play internationally. To improve their competitiveness, international companies are seeking to access Chinese clean technology through joint ventures, licensing deals, and even by acquiring shares in Chinese startup companies, as in the case of Stellantis and Volkswagen. This raises the possibility that much of the world, including some U.S. allies, may become more technologically integrated with China, not least because Chinese firms have some of the most advanced clean technologies on the market. Ultimately, if the United States wants to compete with China, it will need to draw the correct lessons from history. The successes of clean technology today owe much to globalized value chains that took advantage of China's manufacturing ecosystem and large market in the past. If national security demands the exclusion of China from some or all of the United States' clean technology value chains, policymakers will need to be clear-eyed about the costs and trade-offs and must identify strategic priorities. In some technologies, de-risking may be possible in a limited fashion. In others, Washington may need to strengthen its linkages with other countries. Sectoral agreements on steel or critical minerals may provide interesting formats for potential partnerships on a sectoral basis. Still, the United States will need to think strategically about concessions over market access or joint research and development. Finally, a world where the largest economies engage in green industrial policy may eventually require finding a credible multilateral platform to discuss potential solutions to increasing trade disputes and distortions.
各位充满求知欲的观众朋友们，大家好。今天我们要来探讨一个热门话题：2024年美国总统大选。这场选战可谓史无前例。究竟唐纳德·川普能否重返白宫？亦或是贺锦丽将突破性别藩篱，成为美国首位女总统？让我们直捣黄龙，一探究竟。这场选战利害关系重大，竞争激烈。从华府熙攘的街头，到华尔街的金融脉动，再到矽谷的科技巨头，全美各地都为之沸腾。首先，我们来谈谈川普。不论您是支持还是反对，都无法忽视他的存在。他的支持者一如既往的热情拥戴。他已让美国再次伟大的承诺激荡着选民基础。但且慢，贺锦丽可不是省油的灯。身为现任副总统，他一直处于政治漩涡的中心。他对美国的愿景是进步的、包容的、具有前瞻性的。他会是打破那道最高、最坚硬玻璃天花板的人吗？现在，让我们不要忘记那些不被看好的候选人。竞选过程中总会有惊喜。独立候选人、第三势力以及黑马都有可能以意想不到的方式扭转局势。这场竞赛鹿死谁手尚未可知，那么谁会赢得胜利呢？答案并不容易。民意调查、辩论和舆论每天都在变化。可以肯定的是，2024年大选注定将成为历史性的一刻。请持续关注我们的报道，我们将为您带来每一次转折的最新消息。从竞选活动到投票所，我将为您带来第一线的最新报道。别忘了点赞、订阅，并开启通知铃铛，以获得更多突发新闻和深入分析。感谢您收看美国简报，下次见。请在 YouTube 上关注我们美国简报。
欢迎来到六度解析新闻背后的多维思考，带你洞悉头条背后的世界。在今日华尔街频道的六度解析中，我们将深入探究时事热点，为你揭开新闻背后的真相。在这个信息泛滥、真相难觅的时代，六度解析应运而生。我运用海量数据、人工智能整合以及专家观点，层层剥析每个故事，通过实时背景数据挖掘，确保你获得全面的新闻资讯。然而，我们关注的不仅仅是数据，更重要的是将它们串联起来。我将分析多方视角，揭示隐藏的脉络，为你提供单一媒体常常忽略的背景信息。无论是政治、经济，还是全球事务，我都将为你带来最具洞察力的分析。试想一下，拥有洞悉全局的能力，做出明智的决策，参与有意义的讨论，这就是六度解析带给你的价值。它不仅仅是新闻分析，更是一种赋能的工具。加入今日华尔街的六度解析，共同探索头条背后的故事。你通往深度理解的旅程从这里开始。不要只是阅读新闻，要解码新闻，理解新闻，活出新闻。这一切尽在六度解析。立即订阅，不错过任何真知灼见。因为了解真相仅仅是个开始。